Hi, everyone, and thank you for joining me today to one of our prenatal wellness talks. Today, I have the immense pleasure to have with me Debra Pascali-Bonaro. We are going to talk about orgasmic birth, her work, her doula training, and all the beautiful things that she's involved with. Thank you so much, Debra, for joining us today.
Oh, thank you. It's truly a pleasure always to be with you, Susanna. So great to be with all of your guests too.
And before we dive into our topic, for the ones that do not know you, tell us a little bit about yourself, about your work.
Oh, thank you. Well, I've been working in childbirth amazingly for about 40 years now. I began as a childbirth educator and then found myself invited to so many births. So became a doula, DONA doula trainer, teaching doulas literally all over the world. And in all of that, I got passionate in activism. So I've been an author. I ended up making the documentary Orgasmic Birth. Thought I was making a film, but we've started a global movement around pleasure and really respect and autonomy in birth. And then to take that activism deeper, I chair the International Mother-Baby-Childbirth Organization and co-chair the International Childbirth Initiative with 12 steps to safe and respectful, equitable care. We call it Mother-Baby-Family maternity care. So I like to say I wear all these different hats that are all in the realm of how do we really transform childbirth for each person to have a safe, respectful, and pleasurable birth.
Yes, and that's wonderful, all the things that you are involved with. And I think you are one of the pioneers on those fields that you're just mentioning. And through Orgasmic Birth, I wanted to unveil a little bit more about the work that you are doing. And also as a doula trainer, how do you help women reclaim their body, have a voice, and have people understanding their choices and really respect them?
Yeah, I think that's so important, Susanna. A dear friend of mine, Roberta Scarer, who wrote a book years ago, A Good Birth, A Safe Birth, and she has a quote in it that I still love. If you don't know your options, you don't have any. And that hit me like so much many years ago of how many people don't know. And, we've done surveys. People think they know because they're watching, Instagram, they're on Reels on TikTok, and social media has made so much accessible, but it's not always accurate and it's not always giving the full picture. So I think both for orgasmic birth and as a doula, right? I'm always saying to people, let's really take the time to explore all your options from where you want to give birth to with whom. Every piece of it has to come together. That analogy many people use, if you were planning a wedding or a really special day and there were pieces that didn't line up, you wouldn't just say, oh, you know what, I'll do it again next time, or like, I'll live with it. No, you're like, okay, I want every detail to really work. And so we need to take that same time and energy in birth. And then when you add orgasmic birth, it's certainly knowing all your options, really deciding who's going to respect you to have a birth that will have love in it, that will have joy, that will have pleasure. Because orgasmic birth, a lot of people hear and their mind goes, that's orgasm. And I always like to say, yes, some people do have, whether planned or unplanned, a birthgasm, because the same organs that we associate with intimacy and sexual pleasure, either on our own or with a partner, are literally the same organs the baby's passing through. We have, sensitivity and pleasure in the cervix, in the vagina, in the labia, the clitoral complex. So I think that as you prepare for birth, really understanding your anatomy of pleasure on the best of days, right? And this is important not only for every person to prepare and hopefully deepen the pleasure they're getting by learning more, but for people that are survivors of sexual abuse, physical abuse, emotional abuse. Pregnancy is really an opportunity to go deeper into healing and to prepare, because sadly for people that don't prepare a lot, they're re-traumatized in birth if you're not given your voice and choice and really that deep, safe, and respectful environment that everyone deserves, but is extra important to someone that might not have had that triggered trauma at some point in life prior. So orgasmic birth is going deeper into saying not only understand your options about what is an epidural, risks, benefits, or home birth versus birth center, but do you have a really good relationship with your body? Do you understand and find pleasure in it? Are there areas that are off limit for touch or pleasure? So you get to define it. And so orgasmic birth, by writing your own definition for many people, it's not kind of bringing in the orgasm, because if you get that, that's kind of the icing on the top. But I wouldn't want someone putting it on their birth plan that, like, you didn't get your birth if you didn't get an orgasm. Even for me, my birth that I define as orgasmic was really being in my power, choosing my positions, feeling complete respect and autonomy, really birthing in love of myself, connection, love of my baby, love of partner. There's just so many emotions that go unexpressed, unarticulated if we don't dive deeper into birth, because it's not only physical, it's emotional, it's sacred, and it is sexual.
Exactly. That brings me to the next question, which is how we can help mothers to reconnect with that emotional and spiritual side of birth, because as you are saying, birth is and pregnancy is much more than just a medical event. It's deeply human. It's a human experience. It's sacred experience. So how can we help mothers to reconnect with that emotional and spiritual side of birth?
Yeah. And that's so important, right? Because I think that's the bigger piece. Most of the time, the body and the baby is going to navigate birth, right? And with the help of a midwife and a doula, they're going to help you change position and address the physical needs. But you're on your own on the emotions, right? And Penny Simpkin, a dear mentor who passed this year, she said to me years ago that 80% of long labors are emotional, she believed, not physical. That when the mind gets in the way, the mind holds us back. And I have to say that I really agree with her that preparing emotionally, and not that we all don't have baggage. You can't be human on this planet without things that have come up in our life. But what I think most people don't realize is labor is a time where all that baggage tends to come up in labor. And if you don't have a means to express it, if you don't feel safe enough to release it, I always say to my clients, right, what you hold in emotionally adds to holding in the baby in. And unless you can express and open up and release it, that's how you release and fully open to birth. So labor's not a therapy moment. You're not looking to dive deep if things come up, but you're looking to create the emotional safety. Again, back to choosing where you're giving birth, who's going to be there. Are they going to honor that emotions may rise for you, and how will they support you if they come? I tell my clients all the time, I love it when people cry in labor, because often if a deep emotion comes up, one of the responses we have is to scream, to cry, to sob. And when people let those tears flow, again, they're letting that emotion out. We have to feel it to heal it. As it comes out, they're also letting adrenaline, stress hormones out of their body, and stress hormones slow or stop labor. So I'm always checking in with my clients and saying, what's going through your mind in labor? Not that you have to tell me, I'm not being nosy, but check in with yourself and make the opportunity for those thoughts that are coming through to move through you. And a lot of that is, can they have the privacy they want? Go to a toilet, go into a shower, think through ahead. If an emotion's coming for you, what do you need to be able to express it? Do you want to share it with a partner, or would you rather the partner stepped out too? Does your doula or midwife, are they someone that you would feel safe expressing? And sometimes you'll kind of know what might be coming. We know ourselves for our emotional baggage, but sometimes it's very unexpected things that come up in labor. So finding that way that you can feel safe no matter what labor asks of you is key. Dr. Sarah Buckley says 3 words we need to flow our hormones are safety, privacy, and feeling unobserved. And I think that that's the best advice, because our emotions create our hormones. And so we really need those 3 elements. So for all listening, I would write those 3 words down: safety, privacy, unobserved. Really that question, what's going through your mind, and take the time to consider them and prepare for birth with that in mind.
Yeah, yeah. And in your experience, especially in your experience for 40 years, how do you see the long-term effects of a childbirth that has on mothers and on their babies, on that long-term emotional health and their bond with each other? How do you see that in your experience? Have you experienced and then what happened?
Yes. And again, I have to just honor my mentor, Penny Simkin, who did some of the early research on this. She wrote an article, I don't even know, probably almost 40 years ago. Birth is not just another day in a woman's life. It is a day that we remember profoundly. And we don't just remember like the sequence, this happened at 8 o'clock, I gave birth at, 11 o'clock or whatever. People remember how other people made them feel. They're very sensitive in labor, and the words you hear, the way people treat you, the way people look at you, the way they might touch you, imprint on you. And people that have a positive birth, you can ask them, when they're 95 about their birth. And my great-grandmother, when I was a little girl, had 8 joyful births at home. And she didn't usually get very emotional about much in life. But when she would tell me her birth story, she lit up. And I know that was the beginning of orgasmic birth for me, of seeing that joy. And yet, sadly, for so many people I talked to, where birth was less than they hoped for, or sadly traumatic, those feelings are staying with them too. So I think, to your question, the impact is huge on women, those giving birth. But if you're not feeling in your best, that's going to trickle to the baby, right? Those early days and that first year are so profound. And when women are suffering birth trauma, when women are feeling less than, and I sadly hear some people say, like, I failed, and I get so upset because no one fails in birth. Birth is the most heroic, deep journey we can take, but the system's failing women. And when the system is not supporting women to have positive, empowering, joyful births, we're missing such an opportunity, because a woman that comes through birth and got past her challenges in birth, it's hard, it's intense, right? But when you come out that other side, and I love seeing these pictures of women going, I did it, the joy that they're showing you, it might have been very different than they envisioned, but they did it and they brought their baby safely into the world. That power comes into their mothering. That power comes into community, to family. That comes into their career. And I truly believe that if we understood the possibility that birth is this very sensitive day, more than any other day in a woman's life, to transform her, that we would value birth so much more, because it has an opportunity to create strong mothers, strong bonds with mothers, babies, fathers, families, and I think change the world.
I like when you talk about changes, and you talk also about that path of activism and that inner strength in you. We can hear that, and we can feel that. What would be the changes that we need to push to make birth more dignified, more safe, more respectful for both mother and baby?
Yeah, lots of things in that one. But I would say, first of all, I think all mothers and fathers and all people getting ready to give birth have a role to play. Like, you need to educate yourself so you take your power back. Don't just hand it off to a provider who says they're going to take care of you, right? You need to know those options, like we started. You need to be really well prepared. But then from a system level, I really think we need to do more in education for our doctors, nurses, midwives, all our providers, so that they understand more deeply the power of birth, the power of birth memories, and what are the things that women find supportive, and where are women being triggered and let down by the system. And a lot of it has to do with respect. A lot of it has to do with informed decision making. How do you really make sure that even when things are changing and we may need or desire interventions to keep birth safe on every level for either the mother of the baby, that women have the opportunity to have a full understanding of the benefits, risks, alternatives, and an opportunity to either consent and say yes, or I need more time, or let's try an alternative, or no, right? Informed refusal. And I think that a lot of caregivers haven't been educated enough in that process. I also think that a lot of caregivers think they're doing well, right? And they mean to do well, right? They didn't get up today to not do good care. But I don't think they've had the internal support, because midwives in particular, that themselves are in an environment where they're not respected, or in a hierarchical where they're being put down by doctors or others. We're asking them in a disrespectful workplace to provide respect. So I think it's two-sided. We need our caregivers to be in respectful environments where they feel good where they work, where they're supported, and where they can practice in the way that their practice was designed. We know we have a huge gap in maternity care around the world from what the science or the evidence says is healthy, positive practices, to what we actually do. And many people that are trying to practice by closing the gap and really following the evidence, which supports more physiologic, natural births when possible, they're getting pushback from a system that is many times designed for more intervention, not less. So there's two sides of the coin. Women and men getting education and demanding what they want, providers getting education and being in a work environment that supports them. There's so much more, but that would be my first tips in how we really create that respect and decision making that are such big pieces of how women feel about their birth.
There is so much things happening now into the pregnancy and the birth care world. And I know that I'm sure that you have signs of hope, signs that you feel that are examples. What are the positive changes or movements that you're very excited about?
And there are many. So I'm glad you say that, because on some days we all can get like, right, like all the things that are not right yet. But I am seeing more and more providers and more facilities at least admitting that we've gone too far, right? Like we were cesarean rates going up and up and up and using technology. And I feel like we've kind of hit the wall and more people are starting to push that dial back to say, you know, why aren't we supporting all the ways that people can find comfort? Why aren't we using water and upright and just so many different things that we can do? And for me, pleasure, and I'm seeing the receptiveness. That journal just came out. I have an article in it on pleasure as really an opportunity and needed to protect birth memories and create respectful care. So we're starting to see there's pieces that have been left off. But I have to say the piece that lights me up like so much right now. I mentioned, and you know, I co-chair the International Childbirth Initiative and our 12 steps. And, you know, when we started working on this really about 25 years ago, we kind of naively thought that we would become a global initiative in 5 years. And so 25 years later, luckily, we have patience and we are blessed that we have health and longevity that's kept us here. And many new people have joined. We're now seeing facilities come on board in 35 different countries and a lot of interest growing. I think that number is going to explode really soon. The facilities that are coming on board are really having the passion and the dedication that they want to do better. And they recognize that birth is a day that's so important, of course, to survive. We want healthy mothers, healthy babies, but they're honoring that women and partners and families must thrive, that the benefit this has to them and their parenting is huge. So I get to travel around, and I was just visiting some facilities in Europe and elsewhere. And I really have to applaud the caregivers that are really stepping up, speaking up, and knowing that we all can do better and women deserve the best.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful. I always like to talk about positive things. Sometimes I don't know if we need a change in the system or if we need a whole new system, because there have been people that just stopped trying to change the system, and they had made their own birth centers and their own system, and that is working. And I think that sometimes it's through those examples and through things that are working that the system looks up the governments, the policymakers, and then they start changing from the top to the bottom the things that need to be changed. What would be a positive message that you would like to leave, not only for mothers, but also for the health professionals that are working with these mothers and couples through their birth journey?
And I would say to everyone, you know, we are at a time, we have stress in our lives, the world, so much going on. But I would encourage everyone to make moments every day to find some moments of pleasure. I think that we're really learning that pleasure is healing. Pleasure shifts our hormones out of stress mode into oxytocin, love, calm, and connection mode. And we birth the way we live a lot. So really starting to say, how can I make a conscious effort that rather than staying in the stress, I can make moments that are calm, connection. I like to 3 minutes of wild dancing, singing out loud your favorite song, you know, having that warm cup of tea or something, gazing in someone's eyes for a minute with intention to just share your heart and your love with them. There's so many simple things that we're overlooking in the busyness and the stress of day to day. And I think they're important to reclaim for everyone giving birth, but providers too, to take that break and connect to that joy of what brought them to even want to work in maternity care, and reignite it.
Thank you so much, Debra. It was such a pleasure to have you with us today.
Oh,
Thank you.
thank
Thank you
you.
for all your good thoughts and for all the work that you have been doing. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Suzuna. And to everyone, thank you.